Hey guys, my name is Stuart and today we're going to be having a look at how to build this electromagnet crane kit. Right, while the base is drying, we're going to look at how the circuit works and how to assemble that to make our electromagnet work. So we've got the electromagnet coil that we've made so far. We've got our two loose or stripped ends. We're going to grab our two batteries and our battery holder, and we're going to install the batteries. Now, if you look at the battery holder, it's got a very important element to it. This is a built-in switch that we can use to disconnect the batteries from being connected together, and so we don't need to have an external switch to turn this on and off. Just make sure that when you do connect your batteries in, that the positive goes to the positive and the negative goes to the negative. The flat part of the battery is the negative, and that goes onto the spring side. So you can see plus and minus, positive, negative, negative, and the little pointy bit is the positive side. So we're going to slot these in and make sure that the switch is off. So if the switch is pushed down like this, then it's on. If it's lifted up, it's off. So this is the contact that joins these two batteries. Right, and then we've got our positive and our negative wires, which we've got to use. We're going to connect these to our electromagnet to get it to turn on and off. But the thing about electromagnets is that if there's power running through this electromagnet, we can't see the power running through it. So we want some sort of indicator light to tell us when it's on or to tell us if it's off. And so other than the magnet not working, there's no way of knowing whether it's on or off. So that's where this LED comes in. And this is a little LED. An LED stands for a light emitting diode. And this is what we call a polarized component. Polarized component means that it only works if you put it from the positive to the negative. If you switch it around and you put the wrong side onto the positive and the wrong side onto the negative, then it's not going to work, because a diode, a component that's called a diode, is basically like a one-way valve for electricity. And this is a light emitting diode, so it means that it only conducts in one direction. And what the manufacturers have done is they've made it easy for us to know which is the positive and which is the negative. And just get this camera to focus. The longer leg over here is the positive, so this is going to the red side, and the shorter leg is the negative, so that goes to the black side. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to bend the wires out just a little bit like that. And then we're going to take each end and we're going to bend a little loop, or kink at least, not a loop. It's the start of a loop. We're going to bend it like that. And then we're going to take that. Remember that this is the long side, so that's the positive. And we're going to hook it over the spring on the one side and the positive pin on battery on the other side, and we're going to push our battery down. So you can see now I've connected it the wrong way around, because this is the positive side and you can see the battery is showing negative there, and that's the positive, that's the plus, the red. So now if we take this, turn it around, connect it up, you can see that it's making contact with the spring and with the tip of the battery, and now our switch here works to turn it on and off, on, off, on, off. Right, so that's what we're going to use as an indication for when our electromagnet is powered and when it's not powered. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to connect the electromagnet to our battery wires. So we're going to take the one wire and we're going to wind it on. The electromagnet is not polarized, so it doesn't matter which wire you wind onto which one. So we're going to take this wire and we're just going to wind it, twist it onto the other one. We're just going to use this to test it for now. We're going to wind this onto the other side. Make sure your batteries are off for now. Okay, so we've twisted each wire just on like that, nothing fancy. And now we can use this to test to see whether our electromagnet is working. So I'm going to quickly find some little bits of metal that we can use for testing, and let's see if this works. Okay, so I've grabbed a bunch of switches. These have got metal in them. Remember that it has to be something that's magnetic for the electromagnet to work with it. So if I take the battery, the switch, and I turn it on so that the light goes on, now my electromagnet starts to work. See how it's sticking to that switch and lifting it up? If I disconnect it, boom, our magnetic field collapses on this and it loses its magnetism and it can't pick up the switch anymore. Let's try some of the smaller switches. So there, you can see the LED's on. As soon as I turn it off, it falls away. Okay, so there our electromagnet is working. That's super exciting. You guys have created your own electromagnet. That's like step one to becoming Tony Stark. So now that we know our electromagnet is working, we can start threading it through onto our boom so that we can use this as part of our crane. So make sure your battery pack is off, the switch is off, and we can disconnect these wires that we've wound on for now. Just unwind them or pull them off. Wound it too tight. So you can just straighten out that wire again. You're going to unwind this one, straighten that one out. Okay, and we're going to thread this now, these wires, through from the tip of our crane, and we're going to run these wires all the way down through the middle of our crane boom, and that's going to be how we're routing our wires so that they're nice and neat. So I'm going to put these two wires together. I'm going to thread them through at the same time, and let's see if I go through. Yeah, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to thread the one through the one hole. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm going to thread the one through the one hole there, the other one through the other hole over there, and I'm going to pull them through. Then I'm going to feed it through the middle part of our crane. You can route these however you want, as long as they look neat and cool. You can run it all the way down. So now what we've got is our electromagnet coming through from the front. It's hanging nice and maybe about 10 or 15 centimeters from the end. You can see we've got about that much space. I'm going to pull it down a little bit more. Try and make sure that the wires are even so your electromagnet doesn't sit squiff. So this wire over here is a little bit longer than the other one. Okay, that's looking pretty good. It's difficult for you to see. There we go. So now that's the end of our crane. This part's going to be moving up and down, and we've got our wires routed all the way through the center part of our crane to this point over here. Now what we can do is we can go back to winding our positive and our negative wires on. If you want to make it much sort of better connected, these don't give you very much of the insulation. So if you again carefully use your nails or something that's not a blade, you can strip more of that insulation off. So you can see that's the copper wire, this part's been soldered. That just gives you a little bit more metal to make sure you've got a good connection between your wires. So there I've stripped a little bit more of the wires off, which makes it easier for me to connect these two together. So now I can take these and I can twist them together. Try and make it nice and neat. If you twist it too much, then it can damage or fatigue the metal and the metal can just start snapping, but that's unlikely because copper is very ductile, means it can be bent a lot before it starts to snap. Right, so now our crane boom is ready, but these two ends are exposed because there's metal, and if these touch together, our batteries are going to short out, and that's quite dangerous because if we have a short, it means that a large amount of current can flow between the two. It can make our batteries really hot, and it can actually start a fire. It's very unlikely for it to start a fire, but there's a potential there, so we're going to want to insulate this, and I'll show you how we're going to do that now. Alright, my Lego Ferrari has done a good job of holding this on, connecting it so that it's securely attached. And so now we're going to look at getting this connected to the rest of our electromagnet crane. So we're going to take this and we're going to slide it and feed it back into the holes that we'd slotted it in before. And then we're going to take our battery pack and we want to mount it somewhere over there. Now this is a pro tip. If you're left-handed, then you want to use this handle part with your left hand and you're going to operate the switch with your right hand. So if you're having it this way, remember, left hand, you're going to be driving your crane, so you'll want your right hand, the switch to be on the right hand side, because we're going to drive our crane by moving it left and right like this, so you want to be able to turn the electromagnet on and off using this hand. If you're right-handed, you're going to hold the crane with your right hand and operate the switch with your left hand. So we're going to swing this around and you're going to make sure that the switch is sitting on the left hand side so that you've got your right hand to operate your crane. Okay, how do we stick this on? We're not going to use our glue, we're going to use the Curious gum that we've got. So we're going to take a strip of this, and you don't need a huge amount, it's pretty sticky. You're going to stick it upside down, we're going to stick a bit of Curious gum on there like that, and I'm going to stick a little bit on the other side like that, and then we're going to stick it down in the middle of our crane. There we go, and you can see that it's stuck on quite nicely and securely. The next thing that we're going to do, what I was saying just now about insulating these points, is that this stuff is actually made out of rubber. It's a natural rubber based product and it's got incredible insulation properties. So we can use this to cover up our joins, and at the same time we can use it to stick it down neatly so that it doesn't get in the way. So I've done number one, just wrapped it around, stuck it down like that. I'm going to take number two, little blob, wrap it around my exposed wire, and I'm going to stick it down over there. There we go. There we can see that I've got a nice neat cable management system going, and you can use more of this as you go. If you want to make your crane super neat, we can use some of it. Let's just move this across a bit. Those are my scissors falling off the table. I'm going to use this to join the cable onto the pressed, or at least onto the cardboard over there. Then we can run the cables nice and tight. And I'm going to stick another blob down over there in the middle to hold it in place. So let me grab some of this and make it nice and neat. This makes the neat freak in me happy. Doesn't get happy often. My desk is always a mess. Okay, we can move down to the next point, grab a little bit more of our Curious gum and stick him on over there. Right, still haven't glued this part together, so there we've got nice, neatly held in position wires, not sticking out all over the place, getting in the way. And our crane is almost done. All we've got to do now is we've got to get this handle part to control our boom, so that as we move the handle, the boom moves up and down. So we can use the handle to lift the boom up and down, and we can also use the handle to move the crane left and right. So we want to make the crane the handle a little bit thicker, and we also need to use our thread to attach to the middle part of our crane and then run it through into our handle so that they're linked with a cable linkage. So I'm going to take our thread, I'm going to unwind it from the card. So I've taken some of the offcuts of the cardboard that we've got and I've glued it on to make our handle a little bit thicker. Then we're going to take our thread, you're going to match both ends together and run it all the way through so that you've got the other end of the thread. And you're going to make a loop over the middle beam of your boom. And run it all the way back. Take your two ends and feed them through the holes going down the back extra section of our handle, and we're going to run it all the way through down to the bottom so that it comes out the other side. And what you can see here is we've created a linkage, bumping my camera stand again, so that when I move the handle, the boom of the crane moves up and down. Now that allows us to adjust it to get it to the right length. So if we push it forward in its vertical position, the end of your crane should be just touching the ground. It's a bit difficult to see because the crane's bigger than my camera pad. Right, so adjust the string so that when your handle is vertical, the end of your crane is touching the floor, and then if you pull your handle backwards, you can see that the crane boom lifts up. So if you have a look on this side, the handle is vertical, the boom your magnet should be touching the floor. As you pull it up, it's going to move that up and down. Then your handle also works to turn it left and right. So what you can do there is, once you've got your handles cable linkage adjusted, we can take one more bit of curious gum. Okay, connect, just roll it into a bit of a ball, pull this section up, and then use this to secure your string in place, the threads, so that it's not a permanent solution, but it'll allow you to play around with your crane a little bit before you tie it off and make sure that you've got the distances right, because you can always pull this off again and adjust it later. When you're done and you're certain that it's adjusted nicely, you can take it and you can tie it off to the top of the string at the back of the handle so that it's tied off over there, and then just trim this off so that it's not getting in the way. You can feed it through, you can wrap it around a couple of times, you could wrap it all the way around your handle and make your handle look more incredible. There's a whole bunch of ways that you could do that, but the principle of operation is that when you pull this point, it is linked to that point, so when you pull the handle backwards, the boom goes upwards. And then you've got a complete electromagnet crane. And now you can go and test and see whether it works. A good thing to test your electromagnet with is paper clips or other things like small nails, pins, needles, all of those bits and pieces. So long as it's made out of iron or it's got iron in it, it should be or at least it should be magnetic, and you can use this to pick up various bits of metal. You could also use it to sort between ferrous and non-ferrous metals as a recycling company would do using something like this. Well done! You have now built your own electromagnet crane. I'll show you some pictures of what it looks like, not under my construction pad.